This video is brought to you by Atlas VPN. There you go. A man's got to have a drink. Hey noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and a few years ago I made a video talking about the differences and comparing German Gothic armor, mostly in the southern German style, and the northern Italian all-white armor, the so-called Milanese style of armor. And you know, that video was interesting, but one thing about that video that is going to be different from today's video and today's comparison is that that video was mostly theoretical. Today we're going for full practice, meaning that, as you know, I own a Milanese set of armor, which was made by craftsmen of but recently I managed to buy a Gothic cuirass, so a backplate, breastplate, plackart and fauld, and therefore that allowed me to really put both on and give it a try and see which one I actually prefer. Now when it comes to a stylistic point of view, it really is a matter of personal preference. For me, the Italian style looks better, but then again, I'm Italian, so probably I'm kind of biased in that, but I do love the Gothic style. In fact, video games such as Demon's Souls or Dark Souls, where the characters, particularly the knight, look very Gothic, well, I love them. So it's not that I don't like the Gothic style, I love it to bits. I've got to say that they are like this close in my mind. Form and function, let's talk about function. So I'm gonna wear both of them and talk about my personal experience when it comes to mobility and also when it comes to the looks, because you see, one thing is looking at a piece of armor as it's on display and another thing is to wear it and see how it looks on you. So without further ado, let's start the comparison. I would like to start right off the bat with the new Gothic plate. Now to me it looks absolutely gorgeous, but one thing that I'm going to repeat over and over again throughout this entire video is that this cuirass fits me very well. And this will have a pivotal role when it comes to my personal preference, because you see, full plate armor doesn't have much give. You really have to get it right when it comes to your personal body measurements. And with my Italian plate, even though I really like it, it is a little too big for me, unfortunately. And the reason being that because of the pandemics going on and the fact that I couldn't literally fly and go to the armorer that was producing it for me, maybe a little miscommunication, perhaps the fact that, you know, they couldn't really test it, because a lot of the times, not only an armorer, when you go to them physically, they will take your body measurements in a much more professional way that really anyone can who is just a customer, but they also then will check again. So once the armor has roughly got its overall shape, but it still hasn't been refined and polished, they will check it on you to see if it needs any modification. And of course, when you order a piece of armor from distance, you can't do all of that. So it is to be expected that perhaps some elements of the armor won't fit you very well. And that's one of the things that I wasn't really happy about with my Italian suit. It looks great, but it doesn't fit me as well as this Gothic one. Now, medieval knights and men-at-arms wanted armor because it clearly helps keep your body safe. But in this era of technology, keeping your body safe is not the only thing we need to worry about, and believe me, it's still a battlefield out there. Data theft, malicious links, malware trackers, there are all sorts of malicious things that can mess with us internet users, and that's why I'd like to spend a moment now to talk about the sponsor that made this video possible, Atlas VPN. VPN means Virtual Private Network, and what it does is that it makes all of your internet traffic travel through an encrypted tunnel. This way it protects you from spying, public Wi-Fi dangers, and hides your IP address and your online activities. But with Atlas VPN you also get their data breach monitor. And what it does, it will automatically scan leaked databases and it will inform you of any past or recent breaches, where say your personal information such as your email address, passwords, username or social security number were exposed. As you know, right now I'm in the US, but say I wanted to watch some Netflix shows based on the European version of Netflix, or maybe I was just interested in watching some content from the Japanese Netflix, where with Atlas VPN you can do that too. Just open the Atlas VPN application and connect connect to the server of the country of which library you want to unlock. And boom, Netflix now thinks you are in that country and everything is now available to you wherever you are. And as a little bonus, it works on all devices, so you just make one account and you can connect any device you've got. If you have been thinking about getting a VPN but you weren't sure about the price, well, now is the time, because Atlas VPN is running an amazing discount. You can get a 3-year subscription with as little as $1.39 per month. Let me say that again, $1.39 per month. It's not even a coffee a month. And you've got nothing to worry about, because if for any reason you change your mind, you've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. The only thing about this great offer is that it's not gonna last for very long, so make sure you click the link in the description below and begin your 3-year subscription right now. And big thanks to Atlas VPN for sponsoring my video. But when it comes to the actual differences, there are some stylistic choices. And I think the most obvious one, the first one that really comes to mind, is the fact that the Italian set connects the breastplate to the plackart, which is the lower half, that creates this sort of double layer of protection in 15th century armor with a leather strap. And that is gone completely in the majority of German suits of armor. So the Gothic style prefers instead a sort of a series of rivets. Now, does that make any difference when it comes to comfort when you wear them? My answer is no. Does it make any difference when it comes to the overall mobility of the set? Well, the Italian set with the leather strap does have a little bit more give when it comes to perhaps the internal torsion of the breastplate, meaning that if you want to turn your upper body right, but for whatever reason you want to keep the lower part left or centered, you want to do something like this, then I would say that perhaps the leather strap buckle configuration will be more forgiving when it comes to that, but it's such a small, minute detail that it really doesn't make much of a difference. Now that I'm wearing both, I can say that for whatever a knight or a professional man-at-arms is supposed to do, no difference whatsoever. Now, of course, my 2 suits of armor don't represent all possible configurations out there, but this does give us a little bit of an overall idea, a generic idea. If you were to perform, I don't know, some sort of ballet, then maybe a very, very small difference might have you gravitate towards one configuration and the other. But to be honest, I don't see any difference. When I move around and I do anything that a soldier in the medieval period would have had to do, I can do both things and I can be a very effective soldier with both configurations. Now, let's talk about something else though, when it comes to defense, because some people often ask, well, I don't understand why the leather strap is there. I think it's going to be very easy to cut, and then if you cut that leather strap, the plackart is going to collapse. You're going to have a big opening right in the middle, in the center of the core, center of mass, and so the Gothic protection is much better. What people don't understand is that the Italian set doesn't only have a leather strap in the front, it also has a leather strap in the back, which means that even if you cut the one in the front, and I'm going to demonstrate this by untying it, the whole thing is not going to collapse. Now, given the overall balance of the weight might be disrupted, and not to mention it's also secured to the side, and again, if the measurements are correct, the armor is supposed to push you in your natural waist, so it's not, the entire structure is not held by one single front strap. So no, it's not going to collapse even if you manage to cut that. If you manage to cut the front strap, the back strap, and the side straps, then yes, it's probably going to collapse, but good luck doing that. In fact, good luck even cutting the front one. And I've tried this, not with this expensive suit of armor, but I've tried with a corazzina that I had back in a few years ago, and you can still find the video, and it took me, with very sharp knives and swords, it took me 7 or 8 cuts. And I'm talking about precise cuts, because the guy was not moving because the guy was a freaking mannequin, to sever a leather strap. Leather is tough, and you're not gonna be able to cut it as easily as some people think with just one blow, not to mention the opponent is moving. It's not gonna be that easy to cut. So I think there is a reason why the Italians kept the leather strap in the front and in the back for over 100 years. It worked. So the real difference between the two styles is just that, style. It's the looks, it's the personal choice. There are many different ways to achieve a specific function in your armor, and I think different cultures approached it in different ways, but they both work very well. Just for fun, I decided to also try and put on my older German style pauldrons, the small ones that I had for quite a long time now. But overall, I've got to say that even looking at the sort of incomplete set of just torso protection and some shoulders, I think it looks gorgeous. This is the part where I would like to know, do you prefer the Gothic style or the Northern Italian style of armor, and which one would you be more likely to wear? Well, let me know in the comments below. Okay, so a couple of complaints about the set. First of all, these shoulders, I might need to get some new shoulders made for this. They're fine, but they're kind of generic, and I'd like to follow a specific archaeological finding, of course, as I normally do with my armor, so I might need to do that. I mean, they are fine, they're German, they match it, but I'll have to see. And also the right one tends to want to go inside the breastplate. Now, there's a way to correct that. I can get the breastplate a little closer to me. That's an easy modification, very, very simple, and I could do it like overnight, so I'll probably do it tonight and then try it again. If that continues, then I might need to change the attachment a little bit. I might need to try and point it to the mail directly once I have the mail prepared, which is being made at the moment. It's going to be mail voiders. Anyways, just a few adjustments. I might keep these because I think they look great and they feel great, but they do need to have a few adjustments. But I have to say that the armor feels good. It is a tiny bit tight, meaning that I might need to lose a couple of pounds of pasta. But overall, when it comes to the looks, I love it. I think it fits really well, and it's a very, very beautiful piece. So in fact, I think this one fits me better than the Italian one, as I was saying before, simply because, you know, it's difficult to get plate armor right when you order it from distance, and when you take your measurements yourself and then you need to send them to the, it's so much better to just go to the armorer and get it done. But I couldn't do that because of the pandemic. I will do it though for both my leg harness and my helmet, because I really want it, particularly with the leg harness. It's a lot less forgiving. I mean, plate is just not forgiving at all anyways, but I think that with the legs it's even worse when you don't get them right. This one is fine, it fits me well, I think it looks good. What do you think? Another big difference between the Northern Italian style of armor and the German Gothic style is the lack or presence of fluting. You know, when we talk about fluting, we're talking about these sort of ridges that you can find on Gothic armor. Now, they are there for, generally speaking, two purposes. The first one being, again, fashion, style. It looked good in the mind of the German armorers that were producing them and the knights that were buying them. Generally speaking, the demand from the nobility, you see one noble with that, you say, hey, that looks really good, I wanted to make my armor like that. This probably happened a lot in the medieval period. Fashion is an important part, a statement of wealth when it comes to armor, so you want to look as fabulous as possible. And secondly, they do provide some overall integrity and make the surface stronger. In fact, a lot of people that talk about fluting mention this as being the main reason why fluting exists. It makes the overall structure stronger. Now, that's interesting. What we're trying to do with anything that we choose when it comes to armor is try to make sure that blows, attacks, arrows, half sword strikes don't penetrate. And again, there are several ways to reach that. And the Italian very smooth and quite rounded plate also tries to achieve that in a different way. So rather than strengthening the overall structure to try and avoid penetration, they make it smooth so that it will encourage blows to glance off instead. And therefore, they are again two different ways to reach the same goal, making sure that nothing goes through. It's also interesting, I don't know if this happened to you, noble ones, but it's interesting how taste also changes with time, and I not only see that with food, but I also see that with armor, weapons, and all that sort of stuff. And if you asked me maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would have told you absolutely Northern Italian armor. I like the smooth surface, that's just what I like. But right now, I've got to say that the Gothic fluted plates, and just let me remind you that everything is fluted on a suit of armor in the Gothic style except the greaves, for whatever reason that I honestly don't know. Fluted armor really started to grow on me, and now the more I look at it, the more I'm in love with it, and because I perceive it as decoration, whereas before I was mostly looking for very smooth surfaces, because I don't know, the Italian style kind of gives me the idea of a hero, you know, the sort of knight in shining armor, but the Gothic look is badass. So they are again two different kinds, and that's why I think it looks perfect in sort of like darker games such as the Demon Souls remake that I've been playing, and it's been kicking my ass like crazy, but hey, that's all part of the fun. So ultimately, if you're starting to build your suit of armor, you're going 15th century, 16th century, and you're still struggling to decide, should I go for the Northern Italian style, should I go for the Gothic style, then my suggestion is perhaps ask yourself a different question. Am I going for a more heroic, knight in shining armor sort of look? Then I would go for Northern Italian. Again, that's just my opinion. But if you're going for a more darker, badass, don't mess with this guy or he's gonna mess you up type of look, then I would go for Gothic. But I do have to say that when I look at myself with this suit of armor, it does look very fancy. I mean, I can't find a better word for it. I'm sure there is a technical term for it that I ignore, but it just looks noble. It looks aristocratic. The different layers that you can see in the back. And when you look at both suits of armor from the back, which is to me probably the best looking part of both sets, they look absolutely fantastic. Although I have to say that when I wear my Italian suit of armor, because of the big asymmetrical pauldrons, the back decoration kind of gets covered up when I am wearing the pauldron, so there is that. But also keep in mind that some Italians did not wear pauldrons, they just wore the mail covering their shoulders up to the mid-arm, so that's also an option if you want to show off the back of your breastplate, so the backplate and the decoration. But now that I own both the Gothic armor and the Italian armor, even though they're not complete, that does sort of make me want to give you this ultimate piece of advice. Don't rush into buying armor. Look at as many examples as possible from, you know, museums such as the Wallace collection or the Met in New York, and then choose an extant example and then try to copy it as much as possible. I wouldn't suggest you to just go for, because I know that some people do that, they're like, hey, if it's something that was used, then it's fine to mix and mash things together. But I think then you can end up having a sort of anachronistic set without really noticing that, so which has happened to me too. So I think it's a lot easier to just select an example from a museum and try to copy that and go to an armor and say, hey, I want that, how much you want? Okay, noble ones, well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember thumbs up, and if you're not yet members of this community, become a noble one. Subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. Also, make sure not to forget the link in the description below to take advantage of the great offer by Atlas VPN. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.